occupied, but I really believe that if we have a long green flag run, you're going to see a higher line, a third lane that's going to develop, and I think it's going to have a premium to it. This is a really, really difficult track on the low side, and as it gets more and more bumpy and the surface wears more, drivers are looking to move up the racetrack.
So Ross Chastain has been on and off of pit road. The field has reassembled. The lights are off on top of the pace car, and Ty Dillon has control of the restart. Let's ride with Sam Hornish as we restart here at Kentucky Speedway.
Starting in second gear.
And a good restart for Hornish, chasing the race leader, Ty Dillon. 3 wide behind him, 4 wide coming off the corner. What do we say about maybe 2 grooves? Looks like there's more on the restarts. Brian Scott now being challenged by Sam Hornish for that second position. Here comes Chase Elliott around Michael McDowell.
It's really fascinating how much room a driver has on the front stretch, but you really got to settle things before you exit the corner, turn 2. Again, it gets really narrow. You don't have as many options on the exit. You see drivers use all the racetrack here. And then you want to make as wide an arc as possible getting into turn 3. The inability to make that wide arc will slow you down in the middle, and it favors the car to the outside, in this case Sam Hornish. Able to keep a little more RPM in the car, carry that momentum on the exit. Wow.
So was Brian Scott trying the side draft there and it just got away from him?
Well, there's 2 things. He was trying to side draft, but remember, one of the biggest bumps on this racetrack is right at the start-finish line, which is exactly where he ran into trouble. I can assure you that was because he had the wheel turn, tried the side draft, hit the bump, snapped the car loose.
Brian Scott collects. He rides in the 3rd position. Here it is again.
You see the 54 car gets the run on the high side. The bump is a lot more severe than you think. We rode around earlier today, and Dave, of all the tracks we've been to, it is the most aggressive. And we're going to get a really good illustration right here. It was right there on top of that. And they actually worked on it. They put 100 feet of concrete in there to try and correct it.
But it's still there. In fact, Wayne Naughton, series director, told us the drivers didn't have a lot of complaints about it. It's quite a bit better. But as you can see with Brian Scott, it's still a handful when you're coming through the trial. So Scott settles in the 3rd position, chasing down Sam Hornish and race leader Ty Dillon. And behind him, McDowell Elliott has settled out as well. And Cale Conley and Elliott Sadler were side by side for a bit, but they too now have settled into single file.
Drivers are sort of lined up single file. They're getting a better understanding, sort of evaluating where they are as far as their strengths in the car and where they may need some help.
The resumption of the race is always a little dicey situation. And Brendan Gaughan, remember, back in traffic after being a car that took 4 tires. You're riding on board with Dylan Kwasniewski. He comes up on Brendan Gaughan, a little bit of a nerf there.
Yeah, the worst part of that is that he actually got into his, Brendan Gaughan's left rear tire. And, hopefully the air stays in it. But also, that's a vulnerable area for the race car. So you think about how much effort goes into lining these cars up and getting them perfect before they show up at the racetrack. 35 laps into the race, you get run into in the left rear tire and changes. Has a tendency to change the handling of the car.
Gaughan is shown in 14th position right now. Across in front of him, the 0-1 of Landon Castle, the 60 of Chris Buescher.
So the 17th is being posted, Dave. He's apparently lost communication with his spotter.
Tanner Berryhill, he'll have to come down pit road to take care of that. Meanwhile, great battle here as Buscher goes to the inside, trying to get that spot from Ryan Reed.
Landon Castle searching for that third lane.
Castle in the 0-1 started in 22nd position, so a good run to the front for Landon, up to the 12th position.
We saw another example of that bump at the start-finish line coming into play as it got Chris Buscher a little cross up. He's trying to recount the car.
So Ryan Reed leads that 5-car group in 11th position. This guy, Ty Dillon, he's out front. He's led 20 laps so far tonight after leading from the pole to start the race. Tomorrow, as the NL Central leading St. Louis Cardinals host the Cincinnati Reds. Sunday night baseball presented by Taco Bell. It's Reds Cardinals tomorrow at 8 on ESPN. You can also watch live on Watch ESPN. Ty Dillon continues to lead here at the Kentucky Speedway, completing 44 laps. Vince Welch is watching over what they're doing tonight. Vince?
Ty Dillon talked about how much he thought clean air was going to be a factor tonight. And earlier in the race, when he was behind Brendan Gaughan, his car was very tight. And his crew chief, Danny Stockman, was telling him, I think it might just be the air. Now, Ty Dillon is in the front of the field, and he says the car is free, especially on entry. So clean air is certainly meaning something for these cars and the way they handle here at this racetrack tonight.
Really fascinating talking with crew chiefs earlier this weekend, and it's such a compromise because they have to tell their driver, look, I can't fix everything. You got to pick your poison. I'll give you a good driving car. I'll give you a really fast aerodynamic car, or I'll give you a car that manages the bumps well, but you won't like it on the back end. And, you know, so you can't have a really good balance and try to manage the bumps, and that's where the driver just sort of has to live with a portion of it.
Take what you've got. The 20 car, Justin Boston, his first start in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, being challenged now by Brendan Gaughan. Boston was one of the cars that took 2 tires on that first stop. Brendan Gaughan took 4. The battle is for 10th position. Rick DeBrule?
I was talking with Justin Boston right before the race, and we were talking about what his goal was for this race. Is it really, I want to do top 12, top 10 maybe. He knows that mainly his goal is to get in here and do a nice clean run. Right now you see the battle he's having with Brendan Gaughan. Gaughan, by the way, talking before the race, said that, he's had nothing but top 6 finishes here. He fully expects that this is a racetrack he can win on. He's been moving up very effectively ever since his pit stop and that little incident that moved him back, picking off cars one by one, and Justin Boston is just the latest.
62 have gone. His average finish here, 4.2, best in the series. Brendan trying to work his way forward after going back to 11th on the restart for taking 4 tires. Justin Boston also ran in the ARCA race here last night, so has laps on this track this weekend, had a top 10 run there. So he kind of got the line figured out for those race cars, and great opportunity for him driving that 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, and I think it's great to hear a young man describe what's reasonable. You know, I'd like to have a top 10, a top 12 finish. He understands the opportunity he has, but he also understands that completing 200 laps is the primary objective. You know, he's in the early innings of his career. I think he's done a very, very solid job so far this weekend. He's shown speed. He's managed practice well. And here he is running in the top 11, top 15. And he's been there most of the night.
And yet another young driver for crew chief Kevin Kidd to tutor in this series. Kidd having a bunch of them so far this year, and another one in Justin Boston. There's Ty Dillon, your leader. See what the gap is back to the 54 of Sam Hornish Jr. It's about 1.8 seconds at this point, and Sam had a little something to tell his team on the radio.
Take a look at the left rear, or the right rear rotor, make sure it's not blowing or anything. Just picked up, grind and feel it.
Yeah, so the grinding feeling is something that he might identify with a lug nut or something on that last exchange from the last pit stop, a lug nut getting hung up in there. It'd be hard to imagine, but anytime a driver feels a vibration or an unusual sound, it becomes very distracting.
And that left rear was definitely blowing. part of that which is okay, but part of it which you don't want. Vince?
Maybe some of that is just a leftover. You know, the last, 2 of the last 3 times Sam's been in this car, they've had a mechanical issue that has ended his day. I'm thinking he's probably hearing every single noise there is in that car and worrying about it. They believe they've got a car that is good enough to get to the front, lead laps, and win this race. But a little bit slow to start here today. No major concerns with the car's handling. If you heard what he had to say about the grinding field.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Vince. He's the fastest car on the track right now, in spite of being a little bit distracted. And there is absolutely something to that. You know, a component of the driver's mental state when he's had a tough month, or in this case, 2 of the last 3 races, DNFs. You are kind of haunted by those things.
Battle here for 9th. The 6 of Trevor Bayne holds down that position. Brendan Gaughan working his way back forward.
So there was no immediate gratification on the 4 tires for Brendan Gaughan, but as we continue to run under green, you're starting to see the value of those 4 tires. He's faster through the very center of the corner, which translates to speed down the straightaway. And he's slowly but surely marching his way back to the front.
Brendan Gaughan working his way to the front. That's where we find Ty Dillon, who's now led more laps in this race than any other in his NASCAR Nationwide Series career. 200 laps complete here at the Kentucky Speedway, which has never been repaved. Ricky, so it has some character.
Oh, it's got character, especially at 180 miles an hour. Drivers will just sort of tolerate the bumps on the front stretch, but you can really get yourself in trouble with the bumps in the corners, particularly over in turns 3 and 4. You can see with the drivers strapped in tight, they're still bouncing around. I think nothing captures how bumpy it is more than an in-car shot.
Former competitor Ricky Craven and Dave Burns enjoying the scenery here with you. NASCAR Nationwide racing here at the Kentucky Speedway. 17th time this General Speedway has hosted this series. And Ty Dillon leading the way after qualifying on the pole earlier today. Here's Ty in his office.
So the drivers have sort of memorized where the bumps are. They have markers all the way around the racetrack. When you're leading, you have the luxury of being able to sort of pinpoint those markers, where you want to hit the left front tire, where you go back to the accelerator. And in some cases, you know, you drive around the bumps. And again, that's the luxury of being out front.
Battle for 4th. Michael McDowell has that spot right now in the black and white 22. Chase Elliott challenging. And he's going to get it. For more on the 9 car, let's hear from Richter Brule.
Well, talking with Greg Ives, the crew chief for that car before the race, he said the one thing they were hoping for was long runs. They felt the car was going to get better during the course of the long runs. And that, as you can see, is exactly what's happening now.
62 laps completed now of 200. Somewhere over there is Greg.
You know, what really makes this young man so impressive is the fact that he races successfully, drives with authority on these mile-and-a-half tracks. And the first time he ever experienced a mile-and-a-half track was a year ago here, testing an ARCA car. When I watch him, he doesn't do anything like a rookie. I haven't seen it, not yet. And when I listen to him, he doesn't sound like a rookie. We've got quite a battle here with a young man, Cale Conley, who's not racing like a rookie either.
So 6th place being contested here. Cale Conley has it. Elliott Sadler is pressuring him. Jim?
Pretty good battle, as you can see, Dave. Now, Cale Conley, I'll tell you, his crew chief, Nick Harrison, loves the feedback he's getting in this race, talking about brake bias and how to loosen up a tight race car. Conley is really impressing this team this weekend. Meanwhile, Elliott Sadler, he's running some of the fastest laps on the entire track. But he says every time he approaches the 33, he gets sideways. Great battle going on for fifth.
So if I give you a list of objectives in finding a young driver that you could build a race team around, the primary objective is he fast? Check that box off. Cale Conley has been fast every time I've seen him in the 33 car. Now, the things that he might not have developed, he will over time. Things like restarts, like maximizing your speed on new tires, managing pit road, those are all things that you develop with experience.